What's up? Welcome to episode 8 of the Can I Talk My Shift podcast, the number one place for self-accountability, self-awareness, and leadership in life after loss. I am your host, Sam Walker Inspo, with my lovely co-host, LaShawn G.
What's up, y'all?
And look, man, this is the place where we demystify all things emotional intelligence and emotional management, all right? So what you get from us is some experience points, some background information, some research, all things centered around self-accountability and self-awareness, which will then improve your leadership skills, whether it is on the job or just in life in general.
Yeah. And we definitely bring you some great storytelling.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't be able to have conversations about this if it weren't for the experiences that we have had. So, yeah, you're going to hear some stories too.
Absolutely, man. And so, hey, episode 8, perspective, how to gain a new reference point.
Yes, we are all about how, and when I say we, I mean all of us, you too. We are all about what we believe, what we know, who taught us something that we can hold on to. And today we are going to be teaching you or just sharing with you just some ways you can expand that so that we're able to respect other people's perspective.
Sounds dope.
And learn, grow, elevate.
Sounds fire. Yo, and speaking of perspective, right? So before we really jump into the episode like we normally do, I want to give you all some perspective. I want to give the world some perspective, the listeners and the viewers, okay? I need to shout out fan base. Can I do that?
You could do that.
Can I do that? Okay.
You could do that.
I'm going to do that real quick, and then we're going to dive into episode 8 because there's some really good gems and nuggets that we want to give you guys. Mm-hmm. But fan base, what's good? Fan base family. Yo, okay, so for those who don't know, Fanbase is a Black-owned social media disruptor, an enhanced social audio experience, all right? The hybrid of TikTok, Instagram, and Clubhouse was founded by Isaac Hayes III, the son of the late, great Isaac Hayes. His pivot into the tech industry has launched an unprecedented adoption of monetization, with the majority of creation tools in our main go-to apps all rolled into one platform.
We love it over here.
Yo, so we can basically get paid for all of our content. Reels, pics, videos, even rooms that we host give us the option to put up paywalls for people to enter. And of course, subscriptions are live. If you haven't downloaded Fanbase, click the link below or go to samwalkerinspo.com/affiliates and see the new wave being adopted by all the creators. 500,000 users and counting. Yo, Fanbase is where it's at. All right. And shout out to you, Isaac, because I know if Pop was alive, he would be raving all about you and your accomplishments, right? Pivoting from music into the tech space, merging the cultures with a touch of taste. We're truly witnessing the second coming of greatness, and this culture needs this shift. Shout out to Fanbase. That is not a paid ad. That is not a sponsored ad. We are investors of the platform. We thoroughly enjoy it, and we have shifted over to Fanbase for sure.
And like I said, we love it.
Yeah.
I will be honest. I still need to get my feet a little bit more wet in the fan base pool, but Samuel has dived into the 12-foot, and so he is all the way in it.
It's some really dope conversations that happen in there, man. I don't ever leave a room without learning something amazing, learning something beneficial and progressive. Yo, I mean, it's the next big thing. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's just listening to the rooms that he goes in. Because sometimes I got to be honest, if, we're in here and it's just us,
talking.
I feel a little weird going into the room and he's in the room and we're sitting right next to each other. So sometimes, I can participate and not be signed into my own account, but be participating from his account. So sometimes that's why I'm just like, well, I mean, I'll just listen from where you are.
But
and
I big you up in every
works.
room though, so
Yeah.
it don't even,
Thank you.
Yeah, but man, what Isaac is doing is top notch. Man.
It really is. It really is. He's so transparent about what's going on with the platform, how the business is running, the ups, the downs, everything. He doesn't hold back that information. He's not gatekeeping anything, which that's like a new buzzword these days. Yeah. He's not gatekeeping anything. He's sharing everything that fan base steps that they take that are growing the platform. So if you haven't checked it out, there is a mobile version, obviously, for the app. There's also a desktop version. So you can go to it from your laptop, from your desktop, and still have the same amazing experience.
Lit, and lit. For sure. Download Fanbase today. So okay, jumping back into episode 8.
Yes.
Episode 8. Love.
We in there.
Episode 8. Consistency.
We in there.
Consistency, man. So, we were talking about Isaac right just now, and how his pivot from music into tech. Okay, and it's funny because he talked about this in one of the rooms, but we're gonna use it as a segue into our conversation today, where we place people who are super successful in a certain area in a box, as if they can't step out of that box and be successful somewhere else. Right?
Okay, I can see what you're saying.
Professional NBA players should not be going out trying for tennis or soccer.
Right.
A musician, a music artist should not be pivoting fully into acting full time. We want you where we found you, right? And I think that's crazy that it's our community that does that the most, for sure, because we keep it all the way a buck on the Can I Talk My Shit podcast, right? It's a fact. That's what we do, right? There's few far in between where there are times where we allow, I guess, the person that we're fans of to kind of go ahead and migrate into a different area, let alone let them be successful and us be proud of them, right?
Yeah.
So I use that as a segue to say, with that being said, right, how do we stop placing people in boxes that we tend to hold them in, and how do we instead see them for who they are now, today? The new reference point.
The new reference point. It's such a good question. It's such a layered question because, it's kind of stifling of someone's growth.
Yeah.
And evolution. We all grow and evolve, and if we continue to grow and evolve into the same thing, in the same thing forever and ever, are we really growing?
Man.
So I just believe it's not feasible for us to keep somebody in that box. I guarantee you every single professional athlete, every single entertainer has at least one other thing that they're doing that we don't know about.
For sure. Guaranteed.
And they probably keep it that way because the minute they say something, people are like, what are you doing there? You're not supposed to be doing that. How many people really watched the Oscars and knew that Kobe had an Oscar?
Come on. Talk about it.
Like, how many people really knew that?
Yo.
Unless you were a diehard Kobe fan,
Man.
you didn't know, and you didn't find any of it out until posthumous. So
R.I.P. to Kobe.
Yeah.
Right. I think he was actually about to go the tennis route.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, he was around tennis after retirement. I don't know if there was ever conversations, and I don't want to, I don't know Kobe personally.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody on his team or in his camp or his family member, so I'm not just pulling shit out my ass. It just kind of looked like he was gravitating towards tennis a lot more after retirement. And I think that would have been a sight to see.
Yeah, very well could have been, but because we like to keep people in the box.
Hey.
But that's the shifting into the new reference point, the new vantage point of allowing people to be who they are creatively, intellectually, athletically, entertainment wise, letting them be who they get to be, who they were created to be without the box.
Yo, we wouldn't have no butterflies if they all stayed caterpillars.
That's
we wouldn't
fact.
have no trees if they all stayed seeds. So then if nature does it, why is it not in our nature to allow people to do the same thing?
And they do it without anybody's permission.
For sure.
But we are steadily in our imposter syndrome, in our fear, in our, angst for approval. We are constantly looking for the permission to grow.
Lagging.
We're looking for the permission to, you can do it, and hello, all this nature out here, all this world out here that just does what it does without anybody's permission.
Man.
And is flourishing. We can do the same thing.
Come on. So let's
New
unpack it.
perspective.
Let's unpack it a little bit.
Sure.
We're going to start off with this question. Mm-hmm. We got the main question, but let me break it down a little bit better. Make it a little bit more easier to digest. And for the viewers out there too and the listeners, run along with us. When we ask this question, ask yourself the same question. Pause the audio, pause the video, sit on it for a second, then press play and follow us and see if we come up with some of the same answers. And if we don't, and you're watching on YouTube or fan base, of course, drop a comment.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Or just save it, watch it, and then go back and watch it again. So
Facts.
Yeah,
Run it
that's
up.
shameless plug for, subscribing to the channels.
Facts. Run it up.
And supporting in that way. That's the way that these videos get pushed to the top so that you can see them. So make sure that you're doing that. Make sure that you're not just watching. Subscribe, like, comment, share it, all that good stuff.
Engage, man. Okay, so look, when do we let go of someone else's past choices and see them in a new light? When do we do it? When do we do it? For people that we know. Or we can even say people that we don't know. Right? If we're following a certain athlete, an entertainer, actor, hell, even your damn boss, it don't matter. If you met them at a certain point and you caught on and then they now somehow switch to another place, when do we see them in this new light? And when does it settle in?
We see them in the new light when they shine that light, when they flip that switch on for us to see it. When they say, but it doesn't just go, with that. It has to be the action.
Okay.
It has to be the action of, I'm saying this, I'm saying I'm evolving into this, and now you're going to start seeing the fruits of this new shift, this new perspective.
All right. A little bit of, a little bit of riffraff, right?
What you mean?
Chris Brown. Mm-hmm. Still getting chastised for what happened, right?
How long ago was that?
Man, it was a while ago.
A long time ago.
Definitely making some changes, right? When do we see him for who he is today as still a top-notch performer and entertainer, right? A dad. He got 3 kids now? I believe. 3 kids now. When do we see him for who he is now versus keep bringing up that thing that happened that changed the trajectory of his career?
We got to see the action. Well, we got, like I said, I really do think there is something to, if someone says this is where I am now. This is where my mindset is now. I'm so beyond that thing that, nobody close to me references it. No, it talks about it. We don't have conversations on the regular about it. I've done the work. I've moved on. I've grown from it. I've learned and grown from it. This is where I am now. That has to be at least the starting point. Gotcha. If we're talking about giving people grace, okay, we give him grace. But if he continues to show us, display characteristics that mimic that past behavior, then you gotta say, okay, I'm just gonna let you be you, and I will do what I will with the information that I have. So then you have an educated choice now, to educated info to make a choice as to whether you want to continue to follow him and love him for his work and whatever, or to just excuse yourself. Because just as someone can watch any of the billions of videos online, if you don't like it, you can just close it out. Go. You could close out. You don't have to be there.
You could even log off.
You can log off, shut down. Like your computer even gives you 60 seconds to make a decision if you really want to shut down once you turn it off. Facts. But, it's like we're so hooked on making sure people know that was wrong and you're no good and blasting them and calling them out continuously that we forget, hey man, that person has their own perspective as to what it looks like for them to grow. Mm-hmm. If he feels like he has grown, then okay, that's not what it looks like for me. That this could be anybody's opinion. That's not what it looks like for me. So I'm gonna be over here.
Okay.
Loved you and run it, but I'm good.
You're saying, you're speaking in general.
Yeah, in general. It's like, and specifically for that example, it's like, if you make an educated decision to say, I have this information, I'm good, then you can decide what you do next. But that decision doesn't have to come with a put down of the other person.
Got you.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. It's hard to use an entertainer as, I guess, the point of reference, right?
Yeah.
Because if you aren't around them all the time, if you aren't a part of the camp, if you aren't producing timeless music with them in any capacity, producing, directing the music videos, on tour, management, right? Or on their entrepreneurial journey, it's hard because we only get the fragments, and even the fragments that we get are what's being projected out.
Right.
We hardly ever get the full truth in one swoop. And then when we get the documentaries about things, we get them when it's a little bit too late, right? And then it feels like a money grab. Not saying Breezy's documentary is that, just in general. So, my next question would be, is it really for us to even do this, or is it really just for his close-knit circle to do this?
To call him out, or
to see the new perspective? Because I feel like, again, I'm treating it as if like I know a person. You know what I'm saying? We feel like we know them, but we don't really know them like that. And even when they are open and vulnerable through the music, we still judge them. Right? Because we're looking for something in particular, but they may not give it in the way that we need it or that we think that we need it.
Right.
So it's like you said, it's a layered question to ask. So let's talk about personally, on a personal level. Let's bring it down, right? From entertainment, bring it back closer to home, closer to self. Maybe a brother, a parent, right? Sibling, sister, maybe a best friend. What about then?
I think the same rules apply.
Okay.
I really think the same rules apply, and you can even go deeper because the relationship is there's an actual relationship. Now I want to say that the relationship is closer, or it's like there's no relationship when it comes to like an entertainer that you actually don't know versus a family member, a close friend, a friend who is like family, even a coworker or boss, like people that you see on a regular basis, you interact with on a regular basis. I still think the same rule applies. You know, you give a person grace, you allow them the space to show you that they've shifted, and now you have the information. You can decide what you want to do with that information.
Got you.
You know, but it's up to you to say, okay, I have this information. Have I gone deeper and actually conversed with this person, gotten even more information that maybe they're not portraying outwardly to other people? Maybe it's something that there's a connection that we can make. You know, it's all about doing all you can, especially in this sentiment of family and friends, doing all you can to get as much information as you can, as much information as they will allow. And then when you have that information, if you're seeing the changes that they're saying they're making, if you're seeing the new perspective, then you have the choice now. Do I believe this person? Do I not believe this person based on the information that they're giving me? And do I want to stay around, keep this person in my atmosphere, or do I want to exit stage left?
Yeah. You went there. Because the next question I would have to ask is, why would we even want to? Like, why would we even want to go through all of that? So, because everything that I'm hearing is, I want this relationship to work. And I want this person a part of my life. Is there a point where we just don't? It's like, I don't even want to go through all that. Because what you did is what you did. And that's it. And I'm going to hold you there for the rest of my life. That's going to be my final memory of you.
Hey, listen, you know me. You know my experience.
Right.
You know, I mean, some people just decide, I'm good. This isn't what I want anymore. This isn't what I want to do anymore. And if any of you follow me on my socials, you know, I've been married before and now I'm not. And, you know,
soon to be
again. And even in that experience, I had ideas of what I wanted, but at the same time, what was being displayed and portrayed was very blatant.
Right.
And you can only control what is in your possession to control.
Gotcha.
And you don't possess another person.
Yeah, you can't control another.
So you can have the desire to stay, to want this, to want that, to want all those things. I think the universe is going to make a decision for you if you don't, or, you know, via that person, that other person making a decision, or via you know, things happening so that you are now out of that atmosphere.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, that's it's cut and dry, but it's not cut and dry. It's cut and dry because literally the universe will show you. God will show you literally to your face no or yes. And things will move in such a way that it will happen the way it is supposed to happen.
Got you.
And you can only abide by that. Right. You know, if you believe the universe works in such a way, God works in such a way, you can only abide by that and surrender to that. and lean into that.
Got you.
So why would we even want to, I guess, sustain a relationship or leave a relationship or have a person, place, or thing be a part of our space and atmosphere? Some of it is comfort.
Yeah.
I think. Some of it is fear. And I think those are probably the main things, you know. I mean, yes, there could be an actual, you know, affinity towards the person, place, or thing. But beyond those three things, like having an attachment, a love, a desire to be with that person, place, or within that place or thing, or with that person, or fear of not having that, or comfort of just, I'm good. I don't think there's another reason why you would really want to. I mean, you have to love the thing. You have to really want to do the work required to have that in your life.
I think about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think about how I had my struggles with alcohol. I think about the relationships and friendships and acquaintances that I had throughout that period of time. And who I was then versus who I am now is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know who that Sam was, right? That version of me. Though that version still resides inside of me, I keep it at bay. I don't think that those versions of us go away more than we are able to control them,
mm-hmm.
put them in their place, and then from that bring out a different version or a more structured version, right? A more polished, if that's a better word for it. And I say to myself, well, damn, if that was me and all the decisions that I made, all the bad choices, right? I would want someone to recognize me as I am now. So then I would need to be able to do the same thing for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't ask for something and I can't do it myself.
Right.
The self-accountability part.
Right. That is, yes, that's the accountability part. Once you say and make that decision that, you know what, I don't even want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
This is not a part of my life. It's not a part of my life I want to bring into my future. It's up to you to make the decision and take the action steps to move beyond that. So anybody who knew you prior to, mid to end of 2020, know a completely different person than I know.
Right.
And I don't have any recollection other than stories of who you were prior to October 30th,
right. And the
2020.
Same thing with you, And so that's why I posed this question, because I know for me, that's one of the things that I dealt with. And I continue to deal with it because I can go back to the crib. There is people who I'm close-knit with, and y'all know who y'all are. Shout out to y'all, man. Family and the homies, who are more like brothers than homies. But the people outside of that circle, right? They probably still hold me in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So even like what we doing right now is foreign.
Yes.
Or to them it may be like, yo, what is you doing, bro?
Yeah.
Like, matter of fact, you remember when we had that gathering at the old place,
mm-hmm.
and it was some people from the crib that came.
Yep.
And they were trying to hold me, not all of them, but one in particular was still trying to hold me in the same place. This ain't you.
Right.
Remember?
Yeah.
He said that to you.
I do.
This ain't Sam. He used to drink and smoke and be the life of the party and all this. This ain't you, bro. What you doing? Literally trying to hold me in a position, in a place that he's held me in his mind, and knowing damn well that nothing that I did from that time that I seen him to the time that we invited him to the crib, it was night and day.
Right.
But yet, that's all he saw.
People will do that, you know, and that's, I think maybe that's a self-preservation, even though they're trying to preserve you in a certain space.
Right.
I think it is a self-preservation tactic because they could be themselves. They could be a certain way with that version of you. And if they're not open to evolving into a different them, of a different version of them, then how can they exist in your world now?
Man, you better talk it. Shit, better talk it.
That's just what I think. So if you all have an experience such as that where somebody is holding you to a certain place, it's not about you. It's really more about their self-preservation and how they see themselves in your life.
Okay. Yeah. Yo, if you rocking with the conversation and you're listening on the audio version, I would ask you to check out the video version and comment what you think about what she just said about the self-preservation part. Them self-preserving or preserving themselves, in your own life, as if they have to be there.
Or that they can't evolve.
Man, yeah, I would ask you and challenge you to come over to the video side if you're listening on audio and comment. Let's talk about this, because this is really real. Because a lot of us get stuck in certain phases of our lives, and when we are trying to, I guess, grow or blossom into something new, right, or get more polished, like we said earlier, there's people that we deem worthy enough to continue to stay in our life, and we got them by the neck in our life when really we should have let them go a long time ago.
Right. And
not realizing that's the very relationship that's holding us back from really evolving into who we really want to be.
That is a fact. If you are a sibling, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
If you have people in your life, if you were on a team, if you were a prominent placeholder in an environment, and that's all people know you as. I have both of those titles. You probably have both of those titles. I was a very good athlete. I was a very good student athlete.
Pause. Very good.
I was very good.
Very good.
I was amazing in my day.
Oh, amazing.
I mean,
why we just can't put the stamp? Hall of Fame track athlete, track and field athlete, Hall of Fame, and what else? Because what we not going to do here is minimize our accomplishments.
I'm not.
Although that was an older version of you, it doesn't matter. You were still excellent.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to let you minimize yourself.
Thank you.
Hall
I was
of Fame.
An excellent athlete.
Hall of Fame,
I was
track
an
and field
excellent athlete in in the years that I competed.
Right.
And as far as 2023, there are people who still only reference me for the athlete that I was. I am one of 3 siblings. I am the baby. Even though I'm a twin, I am the baby of the 4 of us. And I still get the stamp of, baby sis and get treated as such. And I know that for a fact that there haven't been deep enough conversations on any level with any of those people who hold me as, you still run, you still,
Yeah.
My siblings who I lived with until, I was 18 and then moved away and haven't been home since 99. They still hold me to that place because they don't know anything else.
Gotcha.
And I know for a fact because there haven't been deep enough conversations to say, like, really, what's going on? You know, you get glimpses of what I share, glimpses of what I might share. But if you are not asking those questions, what are you up to now? What are you doing now? How do you feel about where you are now? Do you miss said experience? If you're not asking those quality questions to get quality answers, then you are going to hold somebody in a certain light, or you will be held in a certain light. And it may feel good to you. It may feel comfortable to you, but it really may not feel good to you. And that's the point where you have to make a decision. Do I want to accept this way that I'm being treated anymore? Because that's a boundary.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'll talk about that part later when we share our book of the week. But, but overall, like, that's a boundary, and you get to decide this works for me in my life now, or this doesn't work for me. And this is how I'm going to take my next steps in this particular relationship.
So then now, with what you just said, what I'm drawing from that is less about the person changing their behavior and more about how I allow myself to see them, regardless of where they are. I meet them where they're at. I allow myself to meet them where they're at versus them maybe trying to change me. I just change my own perception of myself, and then that in turn will allow me to see them exactly where they are, not who they were. Right.
Yes. And so, yes, it is definitely more about you seeing where you are, seeing for yourself where you are and your growth. It still has to do with showing that person, this is who I am and where I am, because if we don't continuously practice that person will never have the opportunity to say, all right, he doesn't like that, so let me just stop. Maybe I should just stop, because they're not reacting the way that they used to.
They're gonna treat you how you treat yourself.
Exactly. And if they choose to not acknowledge that, because there are people who will, then again, now you have that information to see who that person is for who they are. This isn't to say you just shove people off and you just dismiss them and let them be. It's just, you know who that person is. You know where they stand. You know they are not respecting the boundaries or new perspective.
Yeah.
And you can choose to not insert yourself around that person as much. Maybe you don't want to insert yourself around that person at all ever again, but you have to be okay with that.
Boy,
you know, there's
make that decision and stand on it.
There is a place where you have to look at yourself and not straddle the fence. Let it be okay one day, then don't let it be okay the next day.
Part. Yeah.
You know, and if you stand firm in, I don't know, I'm going to continuously let this person know I don't appreciate that. And every time something comes up where they are disrespecting a boundary, you just constantly let them know. I mean, you know, if you're around that person as much. But then at a point, you know, like, that's a choice. I'm not saying that's the choice. Yeah. That's a choice. You can do that. But that sounds like a lot of burnout to me.
Oh, yeah. That used to be the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now I mean, if I don't answer a call, or, you know, I'm not as responsive, or, you know, if we're out somewhere and you're doing something and I just kind of fade off. This, of course, is after the many times of calling out and saying, yo, this should not happen because it's jeopardizing not only yourself, but me, and putting both of us in a situation where we don't need to be.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's, then you take those actionary steps. Some people, that's their first rule of thumb. The minute that you do something, they don't even have no convo with you. They just out because they don't want to waste their time. They feel like it's a waste of time. They feel like you as an adult should understand what's going on. So again, I think it's just where you are and how much you're willing to put up with.
Right.
Too.
I think it probably takes a little while for some people. I mean, I know for me, it's taken 40 years. It's taken all my life and then some. Yeah. But in a lot of cases, in some cases, I have been able to just say, you know what? I'm good.
Man, come on.
And it didn't hurt any less because the relationship did mean something. Like the friendship meant something. I had a girlfriend that I had to like cut off because there was just a lot of behavior that I had experienced within the friendship for a while that I was noticing, and I wasn't saying anything. And then when I started saying something, it just wasn't well received. And I didn't want to, if I didn't see, my thing was, if I didn't see this shift and this change and seeing another perspective, I couldn't do it anymore. So
let me say something about that real quick, because I've gone through that too. And what I learned for myself, and I hope that whoever's listening and watching, you really take this nugget with you and utilize it. Because one thing that I learned is we're creatures of habit. So if I've built a relationship with someone and I'm one way, and it wasn't an issue then, and now I have a change of heart, whatever I go through, transformation, you name it, you like it, I love it, and now I'm showing up as this different version, or I don't like this behavior, and I say something to the person about it, right? I have to look at myself, or I looked at myself and said, you know what? I can't get too mad at them because of how long I existed doing the very thing that I'm now saying I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that no more. And they continue to try to egg that behavior on because we're creatures of habit. So sometimes we expect people to catch on to our changes as fast as we want them to, not realizing, well, look, take a look real quick. How long have you known this person? How long have you acted one way? And then come in and say, no, now I'm like this. And you expect them to realize it and see it for what it is. And if you don't, you out of there. Is that really fair to the other person? And if it isn't, how long do you give them until they should really recognize it for what it is?
Now, if it's a long-term relationship, I mean, like over 3 years.
Yeah, friends, family, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, if it's longer than a couple years, then you probably have been exhibiting the behavior, even if you weren't saying anything. Like you were exhibiting your shifts somewhere throughout. So even if you didn't blatantly come out and say it, you probably have been showing some signs of like, oh, I'm good. Nah, that's not cool. I'll say for my particular case, this friendship was probably 2 years old.
Okay.
Maybe 2 years old. And throughout that 2 years, the person was just very self-deprecating. Like not putting anybody else down, not like very, very friendly and uplifting and encouraging to other people, but to themselves, just would not say anything good about themselves.
Okay.
And I went from being the encouraging friend, like, no, it's fine. Like you can do blah, blah, blah. Just try da-da-da. I would be asked for advice, but then it wouldn't be taken.
You got drained.
So for me, it got to the point where I was just drained. I was tired of that. And then just some other conversation that had come into play where I was like, that's not cool. Like, you probably want to be straight up. And this was in regards to conversation with another friend of theirs. And I just made reference to being more open in that relationship, and they weren't open to being open with that other friend. So even sitting here,
I don't know how many doors you gonna give them.
Even sitting here,
yo.
you know, I'm
Real
sure
talk.
you're probably drained from hearing that. And so in that particular case, it was just like I had to shut it down because I didn't want that 2 years to turn into 6 years of me still trying to, you know, give advice when asked, but then the advice not being taken, or hearing about, you know, the person being self-deprecating to themselves, and, you know, not really making any shifts towards a different mindset. So maybe slightly different from yours, but you know, in that case, I decided to, you know, leave that be.
Man, I think this is something that affects people worldwide, but it's definitely running rampant in our community, where, of course, it's cancel culture on social media, but we're not really learning how to really nurture relationships. And we also, I think, we make our non-negotiables so minuscule that it's hard to even cultivate a real relationship with someone, to give someone a chance to really grow as you're growing.
Right.
And to see it from that lens versus like, oh, nah, that was messed up. You hurt me, so you out of there. You know what I'm saying? I look at the relationship with Pops, right? That man, I mean, you know, my dad. And for us to grow up together in a household where I had both parents, to then them getting a divorce right around the age of 13. They was checked out when I was 10. So me and my brother, you know, all of us living together. They get a divorce. Me and my brother go with my mom. My mom passes away. I then try to rekindle the relationship with my dad while I'm in high school, right? It's the toughest shit I ever did in my life. It still was rough. And even from that point on, all the way up until about 2020, 2019, that's a long time.
Gosh.
That's a long time to really continue to see him where he was at and just be blind to who he had become.
Yeah.
Right. And so my new reference point came, of course, when I had Lil Mama, and Lil Mama wants her granddad in her life. And I'm holding all of this hate and disdain for a man who has literally changed his life around. But I'm continuing to see him in a light that isn't who he is in the present.
Yeah.
And so it really took me to understand that, to stop lying to myself and to say, I want this person in my life.
Right.
I want my dad in my life, right? I want him in my life. And even if that means he's not in my life how I exactly want him, we can work on that part.
Yeah.
But the fact that I'm open to having him in my life now lets me see things differently.
Yeah.
And so now, I mean, you know what I'm saying? When you talk to him,
It's great now.
It's like when I told you the story, you like, are you serious? There's no way that y'all had any kind of falling out. And I'm like, yeah, because it's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it's what he wanted. And we had that conversation. And it took a bunch of conversations.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was the work that was needed.
That was the work. And both parties, well, it starts off with just one party.
Right. Just
wanting
one.
to do the work.
Just one.
And then asking the other party, do you want to do this? You know, because that's the thing. It's sometimes a person can make a decision for themselves and not even give the other side an opportunity to say yay or nay.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you just open the door to asking, again, this is about asking that's a quality ass question. Do you want to work this out?
Yeah, because a lot of us out here, especially us men, we out here fronting. We acting like we don't want this person in our life, and I'm not telling you to put up with no kind of physical abuse. If you've been assaulted in any kind of way, I'm not saying to just dump that and go back and try to rekindle.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is that you have to be honest with you and say to yourself if this is what you really want or that you don't want, and then take the actionable steps into making that thing happen.
Yes.
It took a lot of work for me to rekindle with my pops, but I wanted to do it. I wanted to go through it because I knew that it would be beneficial not only for me, but for his grandchild, my daughter. You know?
And he wanted it.
Right. I didn't want it at first, though. I ain't gonna sit here and hold you. I didn't want it at first.
Yeah.
Lil Mama's mom was the one who was trying to make that happen. I'm gonna say prematurely because I just wasn't in the mindset that I am now. But she was an advocate for it.
Yeah.
Originally, and I used to, man, nah, F him and this and that and all the time. You see what I'm saying? But she was the first one who was pushing me in that direction outside of my homies.
Yeah.
Right? Some of my homies. Other of my homies, they like, I mean, I don't even know my pop. So it's, bro, I got you. It is what it is.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So again, when you get around certain people, they change your perspective on things. You know? And so
Shout out to Lil Mama's mama.
for sure, man. Yeah, definitely.
That's beautiful. And like he said, now you wouldn't know that the relationship was as strained as it was years ago. And it's all because he decided to gain a new perspective in the whole thing.
I zeroed out. I told myself, I'll just keep it all the way light. We hopped on the phone, and I remember I was in Los Angeles. I was out there, and we were me and the homie at the time out there. We were studio hopping. We were, promoting ourselves, promoting our beats and music and things like that, songwriting, right? And I just remember, like, something didn't go right at a studio one time. We was going back to the Airbnb, and I was outside. And this one, I was a smoker at the time. So I stepped outside of the Airbnb, was smoking, and just was saying to myself, man, I wonder what my dad would tell me right now. I wonder what advice he would give me. And that's when I knew. I was like, dang, I want this man in my life.
Yeah.
I want him in my life. I do. And I called him. And I was like, yo, however we do it, intro, you know what I'm saying? And I told him, I said, look, Pop, check this out, man. I said, Lil Mama wants you in her life. And it's dawned on me that I want you in my life. And I'm willing to chalk up all that happened prior to this phone call if you will promise me that you'll show up for her like I needed you to show up for me back then. If you promise me that, we can work on our relationship. Because right now it's less about me and it's more about her. She wants you in her life. I don't want to stop that by harboring feelings for you that clearly are towards a version of you that doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
But I also have to do work in allowing you back in so that way I can see you for who you are today. And that was the first real conversation that I had with him. Right? And from that point on, it wasn't the easiest. Right? We went from having, a couple conversations here and there to now it's like, I mean, it's completely different.
Yeah.
And so I shout out my dad because, he wasn't always the best person. He wasn't always raised with these types of skills that we are cultivating, right? Which is why we're doing this work in the first place.
Right.
Because if those relationships are important, we need to find a way.
Yeah.
And it starts with us.
Right. Oh, that accountability, I love it. I love it so much. So we got a couple other pieces of this, and we can probably go through these pretty quick. And I think you just answered it so beautifully in that story. I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Oh yeah, for sure. We got to be transparent up here, man, for real.
When do we stop bringing it up in the conversation?
Yeah.
And how do we do it?
You asking me that? Mm-hmm. Sheesh. So what was the question again?
So when do we stop bringing the thing up that we're holding over this, this perspective that we have?
Yeah.
How do we stop bringing it up? When do we do it and how do we do it?
Yo, it's hard, right? There isn't a one size fits all answer. It's really like, do you want this relationship to work?
Yeah.
Then you have to put down the ego and say, okay, what can I really do to make this relationship flourish? Because sometimes all it is a person really seeing that you are actually receptive to them, even though they may have done something, right, that hurts you. When you become open and receptive to them, because you can feel it, when a person put up the wall, if you can find it inside of you to really be like, you know what, I want this and I'm going to do what it takes, right? Of course, therapy is always an option.
Right.
Some people are really resistant to therapy. I understand too, right? So if you're not an advocate for therapy, you read books. You don't give yourself an excuse. You don't side with the excuse. You side with the result and the solutions.
Yes.
Regardless of how it looks towards anyone that's not in it. If you're in it, then that's the only people that you worry about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question. I know it's really layered.
Yeah.
It's really layered. But for me, it was just like telling myself the motherfucking truth. Like telling the truth, man. Telling the truth got me through so much at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because we layer these emotions on top when really all we know, like deep down, we can, tell everybody whatever we want, but it's like, I need this person in my life, or I want this person in my life.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I love that. And for those who don't know, we have very parallel stories for different reasons. And if you want to hear like a Q&A, if you got questions about how we met, why our lives are parallel, let us know in the comments. And, maybe we'll do a video, in addition to the podcast, we'll throw in a Q&A video. But our stories are very parallel in that I was away from my biological mother. I was adopted. And I'm grateful. I'm a twin, and we were gratefully adopted into our family. It's the only family we've known all our life. We didn't meet any of our biological family until we were 22. And so when we met our birth mother, birth father, various members of our family, I wanted to foster a relationship with her, and it just wasn't maneuvering in the way that I thought it was. I mean, you're talking to a complete stranger. Yeah. Even though there's blood ties, it's a complete stranger. And I won't go into the whole long story, but fast forward to today, she lives here in the same state as us. And I've been here for 3 years now, and I have not seen her in person. And I'm just getting to the point now where I truly want to see her, meet up with her. And we've talked since, but just opening up my mind to the new reference point of, doesn't matter what I heard, doesn't matter what stories were told, what was, I'm willing to allow the present to be what it is and get to know you now as you are now, as I am now, and see what can come from that.
And I'm going to be right there with you.
I appreciate it.
Every step of the way.
I appreciate it. I'm going
to be there with you.
It's scary, y'all. Like, it's scary, but
yeah,
I'm going to do it anyway.
I'm going to be right there with you because I wish that I had someone there with me.
Yeah.
I didn't have the full support from my mom's side. Mm-hmm. Not for any other reason except it's not their life.
Yeah.
They have their own life that they was worried about, And I think for these decisions, if you can't force anyone to do anything that they don't want to do. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that the best thing was for them to push me, right? Because then I'm kind of like half-assing my way through it then. It wasn't until I decided, you know what, nah, this is what I want.
Yeah.
Just like you. We had many of those conversations. But now you're like, no, I'm ready.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He makes me excited to do it. And I still have like anxiety around it, but it's gonna all work out.
And we gonna keep y'all posted on it too.
We sure will.
For real.
Sure will, because this is a part of what we do. It's a part of, why we come on here is to enhance your emotional intelligence by way of storytelling, by way of tips, books that we have read that have helped us evolve and elevate.
Yeah. So to bring it back home full circle before we get out of here, because we got to end it on that note.
Yeah.
Because this is amazing.
Yeah, this is
and
good.
I'm so proud of you for being transparent and vulnerable, you know what I'm saying, on the platform, for real. Because this was needed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All right, to bring it home, how do we shift our perspective to gain a new reference point? Give us some ways.
So, 3 ways. You've kind of heard it throughout, here, but we're going to just condense it right here. So if you haven't watched any of this video, if you haven't listened to any of this podcast, these last couple of minutes, this is for you.
Cool.
So, how do we shift our perspective to gain a new reference point? So first, you have to know yourself. Know yourself, okay? What do you believe in? Have you researched and acquired knowledge for your own truths to stand firm in? This is going to help you. This is so going to help you when it comes to knowing what your perspective is and opening up to someone else's perspective.
Dope.
Which leads me into be open to other ideas other than your own. Okay, everybody has a story, everyone, and a life that they've lived before the two of you crossed paths. So consider that there is not the idea, your idea, but there are many ideas. Okay, so
many ideas, many solutions.
Yes. So with all of the ideas, there's tons of solutions. So just be open to other people's perspective, whether you agree with it or not. Just know that there's more to life than what you know and what you believe in.
Dope.
And then number 3, this is probably the most important they're all, these are top 3. These are my top 3. These are what have helped me tremendously. Set and enforce boundaries.
That B word, boy.
Set and enforce boundaries. I haven't always had them. Make your yes and your no your no. Okay. When someone doesn't respect your boundaries, know that it's okay to still love them from afar and love yourself enough to remove yourself from the situation when it's needed. If they do respect your boundaries, consider ways that you can live now in this newfound freedom together.
Fire.
Okay, those top 3, if you don't listen to anything else we've said in this whole hour and change, know those 3 things in order to shift your perspective, gain a new reference point.
I love you.
I love you.
Dope. That's dope. So drop the book of the week on them.
Book of the week.
Yeah.
Book of the week.
Drop the book of the week.
So this week's book, and again, these books are all books that we have read. This one is called Boundaries. Okay. Boundaries.
Okay. You talking about boundaries.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I read that.
Yes.
Yep. I read that book.
When to say yes, how to say no, to take control of your life. This book is by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. It's a New York Times bestseller, y'all. People are reading it. This book helps you to learn when to say yes and how to say, and know how to say no in order to take control of your life and set healthy biblical boundaries with your spouse, children, friends, parents, coworkers, and even yourself. Now, this is based in like Christian book sales. So it does have a lot of New American version of the Bible throughout it. Yeah, there's some parts of it laced throughout. But even with saying that, it is it transcends, guys. So even though
it's not a deep dive.
Yeah, it's not like this verse, that verse, listen to this, listen to that. But it is definitely everything that it says. It allows you to learn how when to say yes, how to say no, set your boundaries so that you can have these healthy relationships with everyone in your village, including yourself, because sometimes we don't have healthy boundaries with ourselves, and that can cause our own turmoil. So
new boundaries equals a new reference point, a new zeroed reference point, which means a new way of quality living moving forward. That is dope.
Yeah.
Yo, the funny thing about the boundaries book is like bound and then Aries. So I just look at the first thing that stand out is Aries. Shout out to LaShawn, right? Yeah, man, this has been a dope pod.
Yeah.
I love what we're building. I love what we're doing. And I know that we're going to remain consistent because it's needed and it's bigger than you and I.
Yes.
It's bigger than you and I, for sure. I want to leave y'all with this. A little quote from my book. Unity is the shift.
Yes.
Unify your heart and mind at all costs. You can find that on samwalkerinspo.com. A signed paperback for sure when you purchase it. But I'm going to leave you with a quote. And this quote goes as follows. Love is just a lesson when the world is your campus. Think on that.
That's a good one.
Think on that. It's a quote from my book, and I behoove you to go read it. Right? There is an ebook version out in iBooks if you want to do it that way. Or you can just go right to the website and get a copy yourself.
It's nothing like some page turning for
sure.
you. Nothing like some page turning.
For sure. Can I Talk My Shift, episode 8, streaming on all platforms, on Fanbase and YouTube. You can find the video version.
Yes, indeed.
Of LaShawn and myself, kicking this emotional intelligence and emotional management knowledge to you through life experiences and storytelling for sure. And yeah, this has been episode 8. And I'm glad that you made it all the way through. Right?
Yes, indeed. We appreciate you. And we hope you have an amazing day, night, week, weekend, wherever you are. And we'll see you in the next episode.
The next episode. Again, the number one place for self-awareness, self-accountability, and leadership in life after loss. Till next time, y'all.
Later.